to get the day started.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll call this recommending committee meeting of April 15th to order. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
This meeting has been posted in various locations throughout the city. I'll read the first item to consider, which is Bill number 2008-18, annexation number ANX 26436, property location at 4871 Ritter Avenue, petitioned by Joel Hermosillo. Acreage .53 acres, zoned RE county zoning, RE city equivalent, sponsored by the esteemed Councilman Ricky Barlow.
Yes, committee members, this is a standard owner petitioned single parcel annexation request. Everything is in order. Recommend approval.
Right. Do we have any other comments from anybody on staff or from anybody within the audience? Councilman Barlow?
Yes, I would like to move for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, Bill number 2008-19, annexation number ANX 26466, property location at 6424 West Cheyenne Avenue, petitioned by the Vietnam Veterans American Chapter number 17, acreage .63 acres, zone CP county zoning, PR city equivalent, sponsored again by our very esteemed Councilman Ricky Barlow.
And for the record, on bill number 200-19, annexation 26466, my name is spelled with an I, not a Y.
That is correct. Thank you, Councilman.
You're so welcome.
This, committee members, this is another single parcel owner petitioned annexation. Everything is in order. Recommend approval.
Are there any comments from anybody else on staff or from any of the public that's here? Councilman?
Yes, I would like to move for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Moving to the next item. I'm going to ask if we can maybe move, in order to save time, move item number 6 up before item number 5, because item 5 will be lengthy, and that will then allow those for item number 6 to leave if they wish to leave and not have to wait a long time. So moving to agenda item number 6, Bill number 2008-21, ordinance creating special improvement district number 1507, Jones Boulevard, Elko Road to Horse Drive, and Grand Teton Drive, Maverick Street to Decatur Boulevard, sponsored by a step requirement.
Yes, Council, this is a standard SID creation district. Everything's in order. We have Mr. Mike Thompson from our SID office here if you have any questions.
As I read through it, I did not have any questions. Mr. Barlow, did you have any questions?
Yeah.
Anybody within the audience have any questions? Anybody have any public comments? Then Mr. Barlow.
Yes, I would like to move for due pass.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We will now move to item number 5, Bill number 2008-20, which establishes additional licensing requirements and regulations applicable to wedding chapels, sponsored by Councilman Gary Reese.
Yes, committee members. Mr. Jerbick is not able to be here today. As you know, he's at a conference in Washington, D.C., and he asked me to indicate a little bit about the intent of this ordinance, why it's here, and then make a suggestion about how we proceed after that. So I just wanted to introduce the ordinance by saying that this is the request by Councilman Gary Reese that is based in large part upon the situation that happened last year with the Garden of Love Wedding Chapel. The ordinance does a couple of things. It would require licensees, principally new licensees with wedding chapels, to obtain a privilege license, which, as you're aware, requires background checks and requires council approval. It would also reinforce the need for those who act on behalf of the wedding chapels that they comply with our solicitation ordinances, chapter 6.42 and 6.62 of the city code.
Excuse me, could I just ask, I'm seeing you looking for this. Do we
I
have another?
apologize, I really didn't
That's
mean
all
to
right.
interrupt. I
Didn't we have some extra copies, or are they all gone?
They're all gone.
He wants it. Well, you know what? Why don't I give him mine and I'll look on with Ricky?
Are you sure? That's
Surely.
very kind of you.
That's fine. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
And you know what, the other thing we might clarify is what you're at, the changes are indicated by the underlining, the additions are indicated by the underlining on the ordinance, right?
That's correct, although Section 2, since it doesn't change anything, even though it's not underlined, it's all brand new.
Okay, so Section 2 plus everything that's underlined is new,
That's
for
correct.
those of you who maybe don't go through this very often.
The other thing that it does is it indicates between the hours of 7 a.m. and midnight, no one can solicit business for the wedding chapel within 100 feet of the primary public entrance of the Marriage Bureau or any successor location where marriage licenses are applied for and received. This, the reason, as I said, the reason for the ordinance was the situation that happened with the Garden of Love. We are going to ask that the proceedings that the council had last October, that began on October 17th and finished on October 22nd, be made a part of this record, indicating the reason for the ordinance. There was discussion at that time of the need to come back and look at our ordinances, and so that's what we've decided to do. The councilman indicated he wanted these things put into ordinance form. In accordance with state law, we sent out a solicitation for input from those existing licensees and received significant input about the provisions. Many of the comments indicated that we might not be going far enough with the distance limitations, or some indicated that we ought to be prohibiting solicitation altogether. It is our belief, the city attorney's office and the councilman as sponsor, that we ought to acknowledge that some solicitation ought to be able to occur. And this is simply actually an extension of existing state law, which currently prohibits solicitation on county courthouse property. I'm not sure that the Marriage Bureau qualifies as courthouse property, but it indicates the same kind of intent, that there ought to be a place within the surroundings of the place where a person goes to get a marriage license, that they are protected from solicitation activity. As I said, the recommendation that Mr. Jerbick had is that we take comment today from those who are here and who wish to be heard, that we hold the item in abeyance until our next recommending committee meeting, at which time he will appear and make a presentation in more detail. We will also bring at that time the record from the council proceedings last October and have them officially be made part of the proceedings. And so that would be my recommendation, that we hear from those who are here today, and then that we hold the item in abeyance till our next meeting.
Is there anybody else from staff that wants to comment? And those of you from the public that would like to comment, when you do, would you give your name and move the mic towards you? I'm just pointing to the mic. Move that so that you can be heard.
I doubt I need that.
And you might not need it, but
okay.
someone else might.
My name's Gary Peck. I'm the Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada at 732 South 6th Street here in Las Vegas, 89101. I have a couple of serious concerns about this, or to put it more bluntly, objections to this. The biggest concern has to do with turning this into a privileged license. It raises very serious problems. Indeed, I don't normally talk like this. I really don't. It invites litigation because you are now talking about religion. Because some of the people who perform marriages belong to religious faiths and organizations. The idea that the government is going to do background checks on those people to determine whether or not they, quote, end quote, qualify to perform marriages is a serious problem that raises serious constitutional issues. So, for that matter, would any requirement that people somehow establish or prove the validity of their religion and their religious organization and their religious faith? It is not up to government or government's business to make those inquiries. If I am part of a religion that includes 4 people, and the 4 people are prepared to say that I have the authority to perform marriages within that faith, that's good enough, and it's not up to the government to decide whether or not that's a real religion and people really do qualify to perform the marriages. And I can't resist noting, so shortly after the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination, he happens to be one of my heroes and one of my inspirations, has been for as long as I can remember. It is conceivable that under the proposed ordinance, Martin Luther King wouldn't be able to perform marriages because he was arrested, not once, but a bunch of times. Of course, we all know ministers who do wonderful work, the Lord's work, I presume, in the view of most people in this room, who have been convicted any number of times of any number of offenses, saw the light, found faith, and decided they were going to become members of the clergy. So, there is a profound problem with the idea that government is going to turn this into a privileged license, going to conduct background checks, going to determine who does and doesn't qualify to perform marriages if they are doing so as a religious exercise. I also have some concerns, although I think honesty demands that I need to go out and look at, with my general counsel, Mr. Lichtenstein, the area that we're talking about. It's conceivable that the 100-foot rule is perfectly fine. It's also conceivable that from our perspective it wouldn't be perfectly fine. It depends on where that puts people relative to the Marriage Bureau and what kind of zone of protection is being created and how that implicates the First Amendment. So I am heartened that this matter will be obeyed. I am heartened that there will be another opportunity to discuss it. I would really urge, because as I always say and always mean, for us, litigating issues is always an option of last resort, but this is a serious problem that raises serious constitutional issues, and I would urge some very careful reconsideration before something like this is enacted. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Peck. And yes, you can move this one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
My name is Cliff Everts. I am the founder CEO of Vegas Wedding Chapel, located 320 South 3rd Street. I apologize I'm not as articulate as Mr. Peck, but I think his point is not well taken, because this has nothing to do with licensing of ministers. It doesn't address that issue. That issue is done through the county clerk. Totally separate issue, has nothing to do with business licensing. I, for example, own a business. I'm not a licensed clergy. I don't do marriages. Many of the people who own chapels don't do marriages. A few do, but it's just totally 2 separate issues. And I think you shouldn't try to confuse the 2. The reason the privilege license is so, I think, will help solve a serious problem that happened in the past and potential problems, because we are allowed access to very sensitive information about couples. Typically, we will know their name, where they're from, their mother's maiden name, their social security number, their home address. And that is ripe information for identity theft. And it seems to me that when you, and the couples don't have a choice about giving that to us. They can't say, well, I don't want to give you that information. We're required to have that in order to perform a wedding. And so therefore the idea that they're required to give it to somebody who perhaps has been convicted 10 times or 20 times, whatever, is something that they may not feel comfortable with, because that is, identity theft, as you know, is probably the most widespread, most crime in the United States today. And it seems to me that you are opening up a tremendous problem by allowing people of ill repute who have not had an opportunity to be investigated in any way to have access to that information. So fundamentally, I believe that that is the primary reason, is to protect our customers. And what we don't need is another scandal of wedding couples coming to town only finding out that all their identities have been sold, because that information is available. I can probably make more money selling identity than I can doing the wedding. You know, and that's a real temptation, I would say, to people who are not very honest, who aren't willing to abide by the law. So I think that from that perspective, I think the privilege license is a very good idea and will go a long way. And I don't think it's onerous in any manner on any legitimate business person. So from that perspective, I would support that. Secondarily, I think, if anything, the 100-foot limitation is not very restrictive at all from currently what they do. The problem, most of these rules already exist. They're routinely not enforced. If they were enforced, you probably wouldn't even need the 100-foot rule. But really, they're not. The 100-foot rule will help do that. I think it won't solve that problem, as far as every wedding couple who currently comes to town has to go through a gauntlet of people, and they have no choice about this. They can't go around the block. They are forced to go through this gauntlet of people because there's no other way to get a business license, and that's not fair to them. You know, if they had another way they could avoid those people, they would love to do it, but they don't. They have to go through that. And so the idea of providing some limitations on the, in most cases, extremely negative experience and a negative imitation or a negative image they have of Las Vegas is well served. So I support both the privilege license. I also support the idea of having a restriction. I would also like to enter for the record the comments that I submitted to council within the proper deadline back in February, so I'll give you each a copy of that, so you have that for the record as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So heavy.
Thank you, Mr. Everts. And yes?
My name's Jason Myers with Chapel of the Flowers, 1717 Las Vegas Boulevard South. I just want to quickly, I'd try and rephrase everything Cliff said, but basically we back his opinion fully. Really to add to that would just be looking at the overall view of Las Vegas and what a unique place it is to come visit, and for the betterment of the city in general, we believe that that's the reason we're supporting everything that Cliff just said. This is the effects that Garden Love had on the wedding industry was, we felt it, but in more general terms, Las Vegas felt it and is still feeling it. And for the future of Las Vegas and for such a great place to come visit, we would like to support that in hopes that it could keep the news and the media elsewhere than focusing on something as important as weddings. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. And this gentleman is next, I believe.
My name's Stephen Smith. I'm a pastor downtown. I also do some weddings at a couple of different chapels. I've done some for even Cliff here next door to me. Also have an interest in Las Vegas carriage, and our plan is to do some weddings on the carriages at some point. I am for the 100-foot rule, and the reason I'm for the 100-foot rule is that does give a safety zone for couples. Once they've got their solicitations, they can't be surrounded, and they can walk up without being impeded to go into the Wedding Chapel Bureau or the Wedding License Bureau. I do have some concerns on the regulations, how they're written. I think they're just a little overbroad. Let me give you an example. I'm a minister. I tell somebody they should go to Cupid's Wedding Chapel. Do I fall under that as solicitation for that? Do I have to have a sheriff's card as a minister? Do I have to have a sheriff's card or some kind of protection for every chapel that I go and officiate at? Also, if you read the ordinance as it is, would the Review Journal come under this purview because it says advertising, distribution of advertising. I think what you're trying to get to is the handbillers. And I just think it's overly broad, and that ought to be brought down to something that's overly broad. I know if I was a handbiller and I was charged, I would say, well, they're not being fair to me because they're not enforcing the same regulations on the Review Journal. And then I would say that's unfair, and I would try to overturn the rule. And so I just think, how are you going to enforce it against every magazine, every website, every newspaper, the way it's written? So my opinion is it ought to be brought down to what your objective is, and your objective is to make it a nice experience for tourists that come and get married, and they don't have to be berated, and they don't have to be cursed at, and they don't have to be surrounded. But it's okay to give them a flyer and tell them, if you'd like to go to my chapel, and let them read it, and I'm okay with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Yes, ma'am?
No, I'm fine. My name is Wilma Herrera. I'm with Allure Wedding Chapel. And that 100 feet that you guys are talking about for handbillers, I'm all for that also, as long as they're not harassing the customers. I mean, it's okay for them to pass out flyers and let the couple decide which, chapel. That's the biggest thing this year is like, you're giving out flyers and then you talk to them, you push them and say, no, you go to my chapel, no, you go to my chapel, no, I give you this deal. That's not really the right thing to do. I mean, for me, it's okay to be, 100 feet away, as long as they can just give out flyers and not be able to talk and let the couple decide where they want to go. I'm all for that, and that's all I can say.
Could I just ask you, ma'am, how about the rest of it?
Well, I don't know yet. I'm still kind of like,
Okay.
but the handlers 100 feet, that's my main concern, because I don't have any problems about my ministers, because I don't think they have any criminal records, because they're all ordained to our church. I don't hire any other ministers outside my church, so I don't have a problem with that. But of course, just like what he said, he's right about it, that we may have some type of lawsuit, down the line, because there's some ministers that actually have records, and now they're trying to better themselves, and it's not fair to them. That's just my personal feelings. My main concern is the handbillers, and I don't want anybody pushing anybody and, giving a $30 deal, to couples and, just pushing all these couples away. So it's good to be able to give out flyers and let them choose, which flyers they want. And that's my main thing about this.
Thank you very much. And then I believe the young lady behind you wanted to speak.
My name is Sierra Balderrama. I have been in the wedding industry for about 5 years. I had a comment. I wanted to react to your what you were saying. I've been doing weddings, not weddings myself, but coordinating weddings for 5 years, and I've never once gotten a Social Security number from a person. I don't even get the application that goes to the Marriage Bureau. The only time the Social Security number is ever given is on that application. I've never heard of for instance, any identity theft as far as the special use permit goes. I don't think that should be considered, because we don't have any of their Social Security number. Yes, we do know their maiden name. Yes, we do know where they live, but I've never, ever had to ask anybody for their Social Security number. Thank you.
I had one more about that one. Handbillers actually...
State your
sorry,
name. State your name for the
State your
record.
name.
No, she already finished. You have to state your name again.
Me again?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Wilma Herrera. I'm with Allure Wedding Chapel. And then as far as the names and the address and stuff like that, those information are actually not given to the handbillers. Handbillers actually take probably the couple to the chapel, and then the chapel coordinator or the person that actually taking all the information is the one that has access to that. And then we file that, and then put it in, record it and stuff like that. But the handbillers, they don't take those information from the couple. They actually just give them the flyer, and then if we need to, and then they go to the chapel with their information and they hand that over to us.
And is the Social Security number requested at your place?
No, not at all. We don't put the Social Security number. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to speak? Can we have that lady first, because she hasn't had her turn yet?
Hi, my name is Joni Moss from the Nevada Wedding Association, and the Nevada Wedding Association is in support of the privileged business license because the wedding industry is a key component to tourism in this state, and the industry has been tainted as of what happened last year. And we're looking at the big picture of going forward. What is going to stop people from coming into this town and opening facilities that come and go? We have to look at more than just today. We have to look at years from now, the impact of this component of tourism. Regarding the 100 feet, I'm in support of, the Nevada Wedding Association, are in support of it. However, distance, I believe, as we discussed, further distance would be better. I think we've had a lot of bad negative publicity, and there has got to be at some point where you can say, let's move forward and be positive. I can only tell you, folks, the numerous calls from Consumer Reports that I have received myself and Better Business Bureau people that the news about the wedding industry in this state across the wires and the television has been horrible, and we all know that. So we're just trying to move forward, and we are in support of the components here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moss.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Again,
I just am
a
trying
lot
to
of
give everybody
apologies.
a turn. Yes.
Hi, my name is Sherry Clute, and I'm with Stanko Spring Chapel. I'm also a minister, and I'm also a real church. And because of this ordinance, I had to go down, even though I was deemed a church by the state of Nevada because I was ticketed and criminally cited a few years ago because I was operating a facility without a business license. They came in the state, and the business licensing deemed that I was a church, not a chapel, and I was not required to get a commercial wedding chapel license. With this ordinance going into place, I went down and have applied for a wedding chapel license because I'm trying to do the right thing by, coordinating and doing whatever it is with the city. I have no problem with that 100 feet. I think that is exemplary, the way we would handle ourselves. I do think there should be a dress code. I think that people that are outside of that courthouse that represent the wedding industry must have the standards of being in a shirt and a tie, have an ID badge on. They should be required to have a sheriff's card, and they should be representative of that industry in the best possible way. And your appearance is a thing I think it should be considered, which hasn't even been addressed, even though each chapel does that. But the 100 feet doesn't hurt anybody. But it's the quality of what we hire and how. And if you have to have a sheriff's card, you're going to have a decent, clean record. You can't just be a bum, I believe. I've never gotten a sheriff's card, so I have to qualify. I've never worked for a casino or anything, so I don't know. But I'm thinking it's hard, right? Maybe I'm wrong. But I am concerned about the privilege license. If possible, I would like to not see that because being a person, an ordained minister, it is really hard to see them coming in as it is with the state. Even though I'm happy to get a commercial wedding license, still being a church, it puts me on both sides because they are interfering with church and our faith. And it is going against what is, faith-based, and state doesn't mix well. It just doesn't. I do believe that Garden of Love is gone. And hopefully that this won't ever be a recurring effect. And I do realize there are people that are substandard that would like to crawl into any business, not just the wedding industry. And yes, I do believe that one in particular person did much damage. But I think the quality that stands now in the wedding industry, we all try so much harder. We take on, I can't tell you how many free weddings I did to try to make sure that anything that was ugly became nice. That you can turn it around and try to do the best you can and give that little bit of extra because it is giving an impression when they leave. I really hope that stands and it has some quality to what we do because I think we do a really nice job. Gas has killed us more than anything, not just reputation. And yes, they do depend on us a lot. And we are a star that can't be tarnished. That's true.
Thank you.
And thank you for
very
your
much.
time. And thank you all for helping us so much clean up the mess we had because we couldn't do it ourselves.
And you wanted to re-speak again.
Again, Cliff Everts, Vegas Wedding Chapel, 320 South 3rd Street. Just to clarify the Social Security issue, the Clark County clerk, when you apply for a marriage license, requires that the people, I suppose they can refuse, but they do require that they fill in their Social Security number on the application. Most of the people who get a marriage license also purchase an affidavit of their marriage license. Although one document doesn't show the Social Security number, the other document does. And last August, when we made this presentation before the City Council as a special meeting, I, in fact, gave the Council numerous copies of affidavits that had all the information, including Social Security number, home address, mother's maiden name, state of birth, country of birth, date of birth, all this information, which it is available. And most couples, frankly, when they come in, they offer, in addition to that, they give you their driver's license. So identity theft is a big issue. Now, we don't routinely ask for their Social Security number because we're not in the business of selling it. But if I were, I would be getting the Social Security number and I would be easily selling it. It's very easy to do because these people don't know what they're supposed to give you. They'll give you whatever they ask. You ask them for the Social Security card, which I've never done. They'll give it to you. But that information is in fact available. It's already printed. It's in the system. Most of them carry it. Most of them give you a copy of it. And again, we can provide copies of it that I have to the council if you need more evidence. But the Social Security number is in fact available, readily available to anybody who wants it from any marriage couple. Thank you.
Yes. Gary Peck again, Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties Union. And I just want to emphasize I'm not unmindful of some of the concerns that have been expressed here and not unsympathetic either. With respect to the 100-foot rule, I just want to reiterate, I'm not taking a position on the 100-foot rule. I want to see where the 100-foot rule takes you with, in relation to the building, and it may very well be perfectly reasonable and a thoroughly constitutional time, place, and manner limit on free speech. With respect to the privileged license issue and sheriff's card issue, however, I think we can just agree to respectfully disagree. The courts are not going to accept an argument if there is a constitutional infringement on people's religious liberty. The court is simply not going to accept the argument that the regulation is good for business and bad behavior is bad for the image of Las Vegas. That's not the way the Constitution and the Bill of Rights work. Indeed, those arguments have been made before by the city with respect to other regulatory schemes. The one that comes to mind immediately is Fremont Street Experience, where the argument was we need to infringe on free speech rights because, after all, there are all these downtown businesses and there are people down there who are, to use your term of art, bums. I don't choose to use bum is in the eye of the beholder, frankly. And I'm sure the pastor would agree because he probably works with many people who are down on their luck and whom other people look down on for any variety of reasons. But the bottom line is the courts were emphatic and unequivocal. That's not a winning argument. The place you draw the line with respect to regulations and laws and policies is the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. We are a city that celebrates itself as a, bastion of freedom and liberty. I think we have a faux Liberty Bell downtown. That ought to mean something. And what it means is that sometimes life gets messy and it's difficult, and that's the way democracy works. So, I will reiterate the point. To the extent that religious freedom and religious liberty are insinuated in this, you simply cannot turn it into a privileged license. You cannot turn this into something that the government will give you permission to do if it decides you meet their test. You're not a bum. You're okay in their eyes. You're not a threat to public safety, whatever. That's not the way it works. I'm sorry. It's just not the way it works. And I'll say it again. While I am not unmindful of the concerns or unsympathetic to the concerns that have been raised here, the Constitution is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights is the Bill of Rights, and those are the rules we all play by. And within that framework, we figure out how to deal constitutionally with the kinds of problems that have been alluded to here today. So I'll just reiterate. You can't require ministers to get sheriff's cards to be doing religious ceremonies. You just can't. Period. End of story. And I hope that the city will see fit to revisit this. Again, I think at the end of the day, I don't want to commit myself because, again, I've got a general counsel. He'd get mad at me if I did. I don't think we're going to have a problem with the 100-foot rule. I shouldn't commit myself to that. But as to the rest of it, it's a big problem, and there ought to be some alternatives that people start to think about as ways of dealing with some of those kinds of issues.
She had her hand up next.
I'm pretty good without that. Sherry Clute. I am for the 100-foot. I'm not for the privilege license. I guess I should make that very clear, because I do think it puts a lot of restrictions on a lot of people. But I was still willing and able. I'm not for it, but I still will comply with whatever is asked of me. I'm not that kind of person. I also do think there is a problem with the wordage in that, and some of the verbiage, that it's like if you put a minister into this, now you are interfering with his civil rights on religion, which I think, and I do think that we need to be more clear in the definition of print material, because if it does mean all the publications that a chapel has advertised in, if they're not complying and they need something to prove this, what are we going to do? You know, you put an ad that you paid how many thousands of dollars a year, now that they have to comply as well. I think it should be narrowed down to the handbillers, you know, and to the solicitors, or however you want to put it, so that it is affecting them directly, not the advertisers, not things that we're not trying to not touch. We're trying to control the people in front of the courthouse, and I'm one of those people that's out there, so this is including me. I'm the first one to say that. And I'm happy to have any of those restraints or controls, especially if it betters what we do and resolves the problem that's there. But it doesn't take away our civil rights. And I do agree with him. I am with him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
My name's Stephen Smith, pastor downtown. One of the other things that I've been involved with is passing out flyers at the courthouse, not me personally, but we also invite people to church. And we have numerous people that attend our church because of being married at our church. And so some of the flyers are not just wedding chapel flyers, some of them are church flyers. And I have been down on Fremont Street, and I was almost ticketed for passing out religious gospel tracts down on Fremont Street. And I am glad that that doesn't go on anymore. Last Saturday we had a group of homeless men playing instruments down on Fremont Street, went up to the police, told them what we were doing, they left us alone. And so all that, and when I say Fremont Street, it was down in the Fremont, not Experience, but in the entertainment district. And it was really a nice thing. You know, we were doing something nice for the homeless people. So it's just one of the things that we do, and I don't think that sheriff's cards are appropriate for ministers, and I just don't think that's going to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Did you want to comment?
My name is Jupiter Desfi. I am an ordained minister of Ecclesia Church, and I'm also the owner of our family business, Heavenly Bliss Wedding Chapel. And just a couple of things that I just wanted to share concerning the privilege. I don't mean to make this like a church gathering, nothing like that. But as a minister, I am a firm believer in things such as repentance, forgiveness, redemption, and things of that nature. And I really believe that if we can still give people we can still give people liberty to operate a business, regardless of their past. However, if there are people who are troublemakers, repeat offenders, such as Garden of Love, I believe that there should be a thing where we step in, and it doesn't take 4 years to put a Garden of Love type of business out of business. Even though I befriended a lot of people that worked for Garden of Love, I didn't agree with their tactics. I didn't agree with their ways, and I think the right way to deal with bad people or bad people doing bad business, is to do something swiftly, not wait 4 years for them. But we can accomplish this without crossing boundaries, getting into people's personal issues, infringing on their constitutional rights. And I really believe we can have, we can still give Las Vegas a great reputation as far as being the wedding capital of the whole world. And I really believe we do that by establishing rapport with the world, that Las Vegas is a great place. But I don't believe that we need to interrogate. I personally don't have skeletons that I'm afraid the government's going to find me for, but I still don't want people to come into my space and ask me about, are you legit? Are you legit? Do you have a criminal record? I don't have a criminal record, but I don't want you in my space. I am an American. I am a Christian. and I don't want people infringing upon my constitutional rights. And I wanted to share that. And I wanted to share that I am totally against this. I am totally against this. Now, as far as the 100-foot rule, this is kind of impractical. That's just my opinion. Behavior, humans are humans. They'll behave a certain way regardless of where you place them. But to me, it's impractical because if you consider where the courthouse steps are, if you put a 100-foot radius around the entrance of that place, in order for one hand biller to get from one person to pass out a flyer from someone that's across the street, they literally have to cross the street over to the other side of 3rd Street. They have to cross over again to the other side of Clark, or is it Clark and 3rd? Okay, Clark. Then they have to cross back over to the other side of 3rd just to get to another couple that's on the other side. It's just not practical. Does that make sense? Am I clear with that? If there's a 100-foot radius around the entrance, which is right at the corner, someone has to literally go, and I only have like 1 or 2 hand billers working at a time, not like some chapels have several, which is not a bad thing either. But it's impractical because they literally have to cross the street 3 times in order just to get to another couple on the other side of the building. Does that make sense? I'm pretty unclear because I don't have a picture, but does that make sense? It's impractical. They have to run a circle around, run a bubble around the entrance just to get to a certain place. I just don't think that's practical.
Because if they went through the middle of the circle, they would then be closer than the 100 feet, is what
Exactly.
you're saying.
Then they'd have to go around the radius just in order to pitch to somebody. It's impractical. I don't want my people running around. Some days it's hot, other days it's raining. It's just I just don't find that practical. But I just wanted to share that, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We had an additional comment. Did you want to make?
Oh, well, no, I have to.
My name is Wilma Herrera, again, with the Lou Wedding Chapel. Has anybody actually found out where the 100 feet, is it like, I thought it'll be like the same area where they're at right now. From the door, is it from the door?
Joni Moss from the Nevada Wedding Association, of what we understood was from the door,
From the door up to
wherever the 100 feet.
and I know somebody measured it. Was it you that measured it? That they're going to end up at the same place where they're hand building right now? It's not across the street, right?
Sierra, the Silvestre Wedding Chapel, it would be in the street, and that's illegal to solicit and impede traffic, so you'd actually have to go to Clark Place, which is the child support division. You'd still be in county property.
It's just impractical.
You're getting that all on the comments of impracticability, so that will be checked out.
Okay, the other thing before, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Can I go on now, ma'am? Okay, thank you. The other thing that I wanted to comment is basically the sheriff card. I'm not all for that, because to me, I want to be able to give other people a chance if they have any criminal records or anything like that. And it actually boils down to hand billers. I know that this meeting is actually boiled down to hand billers. If we do give rules and regulation for the hand billers not to solicit by talking, just by actually giving the brochure, that would be fine. We want to be able to give these people a chance to better themselves, and if you're not going to do this, then there's a lot of people that I want to help. I mean, I know there's a couple of homeless people that I want to help, but then I tell them, if you're going to work for me, I don't want you talking. I just want you giving out the flyers, and it's up to them if they wanted to do that. I haven't actually done that yet because I'm not. Right now I have my son-in-law, which is a co-owner of my chapel, is doing it for me, but he is getting a permanent job, so I'm not going to have him anymore doing some hand billers for me. So I'm actually want to get a couple of hand billers, but I have some rules about that. I want to be able to help them if they need some help, but I want to be able to also tell them that there's some restriction. You can't work for me if you talk. I just want you to hand bill. That's all, basically pass out flyers, and I don't want you to. And then if I find out what I wanted is basically just to put some rules and regulation from the city that hand billers cannot do this and cannot do that, or else they'll be fined.
Thank you very much.
Joni Moss with the Nevada Wedding Association. I think, I lost my thought already now. the hand billers, wait a minute, the hand billers, if the person they are employed by would comply, there's no way of knowing when they're out there if they're soliciting. And a lot of them are. The employer needs to enforce the rules and regulations when they hire these people. Unfortunately, a lot of people, yes, people can be rehabilitated, but some people are thrown back into the same loop with the bad habits and tactics that they have done in the past, and are being hired by other chapels, which is causing this a continuing problem. Solicitation versus hand-billing. The solicitation, we all know, is the issue. Where to solve the issue on that component of the whole thing. And one comment. Not all chapel owners, too, are ministers. I'm sitting beside two of them. They're not clergy, just for the record.
Yeah, Gary Peck, ACLU of Nevada again. Well, I'm hearing a lot of mixed messages about the distance requirement. What I do want to make clear is that we are more than willing, indeed eager, to work with all the stakeholders with respect to that distance requirement if there are any issues. I mean, I'd sort of, again, we need to go out and survey that. With respect to I'm a little confused because I'm getting what sound to me, it's probably my ineptitude, like mixed messages about the hand billers. I'm not sure if the problem is that people are advertising, which is, people are allowed to advertise, right? Or if it's an issue involving harassment, that people are being harassed. And, today we just appeared before the county commission on First Amendment issues relating to Las Vegas Boulevard, where they changed some ordinances because really, if what you are dealing with is harassment, then you need a set of rules or a set of laws that address the problem of harassment, not advertising. So I didn't draft this. I don't really know the answers on first blush. We're certainly willing to talk with anyone, including city folks, about reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, A, and B, about thoroughly constitutional laws that address the issue of harassment. But to kind of go back to the pastor's point, you can't have overbroad rules. You can't shoot flea with cannon, to borrow the time-worn term of art. You can't shoot flea with cannon. You can't have a set of rules that's designed to deal with harassment that in the process is abridging people's rights that have in ways that have nothing to do with harassment. So I guess that's to the extent that I can sound a cautionary note and again express the fact that I'm not unmindful of the concerns that people are expressing here and not unsympathetic to them, but it is my job to make sure that the Constitution and Bill of Rights are properly respected and that people's fundamental rights aren't infringed on. I do think it's important to be focused, if you will, on what the problem is and how to address that problem without being overbroad.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak who has not spoken yet? Yes.
My name is Dave Foote with Chapel of the Flowers on Las Vegas Boulevard. And I just wanted to kind of reiterate that our concern is for the industry. It's for ourselves, every one of us. If you own a business, you've got to look out for yourself and what's taking place. But as we talk about the 100-foot rule and all those things, we've watched things go downhill for the last few years. And we just want a solution and say, well, we don't have to wait 4 or 5 years. Cliff, for example, has been working very hard, very patiently to try to get things changed for the betterment of Las Vegas. And we would like to come up with, that's why the 100-foot rule, we thought, to us, and we are very appreciative of all the work that you've done in the last several months when Joni has come and said, here, we've got concerns that we're sitting here with this ordinance in front of us. Thank you very much for that. And we want it to be reasonable. We think advertising is a wonderful thing. We all do that. But in a way that you can advertise, I think there is a way that you can do both. To say you can let people know that you're down there without, from the video that we saw that the city put together, of literally being within about 4 inches of your face. And those are the kind of experiences. I used to send people down and say, go in the evening. It's a great, go to dinner downtown, go enjoy Fremont Street experience, and then go get your marriage license because there won't be any people down there. It's just nice. It's a great evening to spend. The last 3 years, I would never tell anyone that because it's a dangerous place to be right now. And that's well known. And so that's what we're concerned about. It's not as let's stop this, let's not have any advertising, but how can we work together? And this seems like a really great tool to be able to do that. Anybody that wants to advertise can advertise. Anybody that wants to be downtown can be downtown. But this 100-foot gives them a chance. So you don't have literally 8 or 9 people in that video, I think it were, coming around, somebody on a bicycle screeching in, and it was a sad thing to see this is what people are seeing that come from Indiana or England and go home and tell people that that's the experience. And it, as Joni said, it really does reflect not on the marriage industry alone, but on hotels and restaurants and everything that happens in Las Vegas. So we're all for, and there's plenty of weddings for everybody to be done. Everybody's got a different market. That's a great thing. We're all for the free market system, and we want to work to. We're not doing anything that's not constitutional. We're all for that. But we really believe, from visiting all the meetings, that that can be done without killing each other in the process. You can do all the things that we're saying and allow those people, if they choose not to be harassed, to be able to walk in and somebody can say, there you go. And if you have to have one person on each corner, that's okay. Then you wouldn't have to run from corner to corner or whatever it is. But that there is a way for you to do your business and yet give those people the freedom to go to the courthouse to get their marriage license if they choose without being attacked.
I think these are all good comments, and I think that it might behoove us to have a tape of this, or if you feel is necessary, for Mr. Jervik, so he gets an idea of this, or perhaps you can be sure to convey all this to him. But sometimes a tape gives you fleshes it out very fully. And I'd also like to ask that this be put in the record for the recommending committee, and if, when you're done putting it in the record, if, oh, you have one already. Okay, good. Now, is there anybody who has not yet spoken who would like to speak? And if you are asking to obey this item, at what date would you have it so the people who are here will know in case they want to come back again?
We had anticipated the next meeting, which I think is May 6th. Yes.
The May 6th meeting, then. All right. Yes.
Of this group?
Yes. This.
Of the recommending committee. This will not go forward if it's obeyed. Okay. It would be here, same place.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd like to just add a couple of clarifications.
Right.
Regarding the soliciting and hand-billing, the language that is in this ordinance doesn't really add anything new. Rather than republish Chapters 642 and 662 of our code, which currently govern those activities, it's there as a reminder that those who act on behalf of wedding chapels have to comply with that. This language could come out and nothing would be different. It's a reminder to wedding chapel operators and owners that their agents and employees need to follow the existing rules. The existing rules, I assume, do not apply to the RJ, and so nothing's changed. Whatever applies to the RJ or doesn't apply to the RJ will continue as the status quo. Now, regarding the licensing issue, a couple of things. First of all, this is not an expansion of who has to get licensed. It's taking the existing universe of wedding chapels, existing and future, and saying in the future, principally, those will need a privileged license. It doesn't expand the definition of wedding chapel beyond what is now. So if you're just a church, we don't license you. We don't license churches. We don't license ministers. The county has authority under state law to license ministers, and the term that the state law uses is permission to perform marriages. And that law requires the county clerk, to make inquiry into the qualifications and the background of ministers. That's nothing we can do or will do. We will do nothing about licensing, permitting churches or ministers. What we do have the authority to do is license owners and operators of a wedding chapel. So any wedding chapel owner who happens to be a minister, his or her minister work is unregulated by us, but his or her ownership of a wedding chapel is. many of those in this town who are authorized to perform marriages own businesses and have their real job. And they don't insulate themselves from any other regulation by me being a minister, but by the same token, those who regulate businesses don't get into their ministerial business. And so that's the clarification I wanted to put up.
I think that's very good that you did so. Mr. Barlow?
Yes. I have a few questions. How are we proposing to establish the 100-foot distance separation and boundary, if you can speak to that?
There's been a radius done. There's a map that exists somewhere. I've seen it. I don't know where it is right now, but it's a typical kind of measurement that takes place from the primary public entrance, and there's a radius showing where the 100-foot is. So those who are interested in knowing where they can and cannot be would have access to that.
Should one want to increase the distance separation, what measure would one proceed to do so? The proposed 100 feet.
This ordinance could be amended to have a different distance.
So what is the process for those that are interested in increasing the distance?
Well, they would just suggest to members of the council that a different rule be established if they want a different distance.
And it is my understanding that the sidewalks are a matter of free speech. Are we or will we be in compliance to the proposed ordinance?
Sidewalks are subject to time, place, and manner restrictions. If they're reasonable, you can restrict activity on the sidewalk. That's well established in the case law.
Okay. And from what I hear from the residents and business owners who have come to speak on this item here today, it sounds to me as though a committee should be established, such as what we've done with the billboard industry, and bringing those in the industry of the wedding chapel together to assist in the coordination and the coordination of this ordinance. And I would like to recommend that we consider that at least a representative from the various businesses and those of interest in this ordinance in the industry to be a part of the building of this ordinance, so that they can speak on one cohesive front that will be in compliance with the city's laws and ordinances as well. How can we go?
There's certainly nothing to prohibit them from doing that on their own, but as you know, the billboard industry never did get together to speak as one voice, and I don't know that we'd ever have.
Well, actually, they did to some great extent, but I would actually like to see representatives from this body be a part of the building of this ordinance, because a lot of questions and concerns that were brought out, I believe, could have been fleshed out if, in fact, those voices were sitting at the table when this ordinance was drafted. And so, how can we move forward? My question to you is, how can we move forward to establish the opportunity for these business owners to sit at the table to at least put their concerns on the table and see how, in fact, we can iron out the issues prior to it coming back before this body?
Can this be conveyed to Mr. Jervik?
Yes,
as a recommendation from the councilman?
This ordinance was brought forward by Councilman Reese, and to the extent that he would like to form a body and have that body reach a consensus and then work to come up with something that everyone likes, that's fine. I think he expects a recommendation from the committee as to this draft, and whether people get together in a formal way with input or sit again like we did today in 3 weeks and have the same kind of process. I don't think it matters to him, but I don't know that a consensus ordinance is what he has in mind as the sponsor.
Well, for me, as a voting member of this committee, it concerns me that so many issues have come out in regards to this that I believe that it would be in the best interest of the city and the industry for us all to sit down and really communicate and work out the details of this ordinance. So my position and my motion would be to obey this item 30 days with the understanding of working with the industry to come back before the recommending committee to address this item again.
So the 20th, would it be, instead of the 6th? it's more than 30 days because we have an extra week.
I know, I'm not quite sure what the date is. I think they're looking,
20th of
the
May?
20th.
Okay.
And
would
I
be
will
my
say,
motion.
what happens is sometimes, for example, we've had committees work together as we had in our short-term rental.
That's right.
And we never got consensus from every aspect of the industry.
So we have communication.
But we did get the majority. And then we had the billboard ordinance, where quite honestly, we never got very far on consensus. I mean, except for the people who were, but anyway,
But
I understand doing the try.
respect that.
I gotcha.
respect that because
gotcha.
in some cases we get to a consensus, in other cases we
You don't,
get to,
but you
to
try,
a consensus.
is what you're
but
saying.
number one is we at least heard from those interested parties of the various fractions of the industry, so that they will at least have had an opportunity to express their concerns, whether their concerns were voted up or down. They were at the table, and they had their say.
And
that's what open government is all about.
And even though we have a lot of that at the recommending committee, the recommendation from you is that we do more of it before. And I understand it, that's
Before
fine.
it comes before the full body.
And what was it you wanted to
I
say?
just had a question. He mentioned a map of drawn. He said he didn't have it present, but
Well,
somewhere someone has a map that shows what the 100-foot radius would look like. How can we have access to that map? Or
well, before he answers that, there's a motion on the floor, and we may want to take that during the public comment.
I could take that after this on the public comment part of it. I thought you might be making a comment relating to what he was saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, sir, I'm going to ask for public comment from many of the people who are here today. Yes.
okay, just my question was where we can get what that 100-foot radius would look like on just on a simple drawing, if you will.
Does anyone have a picture of where the 100-foot radius is?
Yeah, I don't know if there's an official one. If there's an official one, we'll make that available, but I assume that whatever one we had was something that somebody did off a website that anybody else can do with the right tools.
Is it, if you go, what you're saying is from the front door, it's 100 feet from the front door of the building?
From the front door of the actual bureau or the actual courthouse?
What is
Bureau,
it?
the bureau.
From the bureau. 100 feet from the bureau. And we don't have a map of that, I'm sorry,
no
but
problem.
that's sort of what you can work from. Any other comments from the public?
Gary Peck, ACLU. I just want to thank the members of the committee for their graciousness and their patience and letting people speak more than once and actually engaging in a dialogue. That is what government is all about, and I appreciate it. I also can't help noting that though it's utterly inapt, my mother, when I was about 5 years old, used to threaten me all the time with the bureau. If I didn't behave myself, she'd get the bureau after me. So. And look where it got her.
Yes,
Anyway.
and she never told you exactly what bureau, huh?
No, she never did. Anyway.
That was
Thank
smart.
you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it.
I have to take one more other comment from, because this is public time.
Thank you so much for your time and efforts, and you have done so much for our industry. I can't thank you with all my heart for the positiveness you have given us, and I hope that there is a light, believe me. And thank you so much. For
You're
your
very
gracious
welcome, and
staff.
a lot of people who aren't here, of course, have done an
Oh, I
awful
know
lot
that.
of work, and we'll
Believe
try
me.
and pass that along. Yes,
Business
sir.
licensing, too. They did a lot.
I'm just confused with where we go from here. Or is somebody going to arrange for a meeting, or we're going to arrange for a meeting?
I'm confused by that as well. When you're done, I have a comment as well.
That's
Okay.
just confusion. That's
Well, what we are doing is, this will come again before the recommending committee in this room on May 20th. In the meantime, there is going to go back to the ordinance writer or the...
Well, I think what I will have Mr. Jervik do is get a hold of Councilman Barlow and discuss what he has in mind.
Reese or Barlow?
Well,
Barlow? Okay.
Councilman Barlow is the one that wants
Yes, yes,
some kind
yes.
of input and see what Mr. Jervik wants to do, whether you may call Cliff or you may call the association and decide what to do so that we can try and
So
work
what you're
together.
saying is they will be notified as to what the next step
We'll
is?
try and get the word out.
As far as the step of the committee, we know that. As far as the step of putting together a group, that is coming from your comment, your connection with Mr. Jervik.
To streamline the process, what what I don't mind is if you all who would be interested in sitting on the committee to, if I may solicit your assistance, to provide Mr. Dave?
That's Dave, I'm Cliff.
That's Dave, you Cliff? Provide Cliff with your contact information. And then
It might be better to have
Joni. Okay, then
So probably
Joni.
have Joni.
That's fine. Joni, if you don't mind being the point person, everyone that would like to sit to be a part of the committee, provide Joni your contact information and email included, and Joni be in contact with me. That way, I have a direct contact with one person versus speaking to all of the opinions around the table. She'll be the point contact person, so that when the meeting date is established, we'll be able to get that information out to you, and then everyone show up, and we'll go from there. And then I'll work with the city attorney's office as well as Mayor Pro Tem Reese, informing him of what, in fact, I've recommended, and we will then move forward with further details after that point.
And I do hope you'll invite us. We'll be very respectful, even if we have respect.
I'm not being I'm not looking to exclude you at all. I'm looking to include you. So whomever is sitting around the table within the sound of my voice, provide Joni with your information. That way, I can have one point of contact, making contact with my office, so that we can get the information dispersed out accordingly.
I have a comment as well, just for the record. When this was originally announced, the ordinance was disseminated to all the wedding community for input, as I imagine you reiterated that you had response. So, curiosity, I don't know how much of the community responded to you, but they were apprised of what was coming and did have an opportunity to give some input already.
Yeah, we will make that a part of the record also, those responses. The responses that we solicit are not intended necessarily to be part of the record. They're there to help us follow up with the draft, but in this case, since there's interest, we can make sure that that's made part of the record as well.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you, and I look forward to speaking to you. So please stay behind and provide Joni with your information. Thank you, Joni, for being the point of contact.
Thank you all for attending and for your
Thank you very
comments.
much.